Welcome back to Johnny Reads. I know it's been so long, but let's pretend that it hasn't been. And this is just regular day, regular old Monday or Tuesday, right? And so today, what I want to do in my return to my channel is I want to start a new, series. And it's going to be called Bestsellers and Me. And essentially what I'm going to be doing is every time I happen to read what I'm going to label as a bestseller, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, anytime I read one of those, then I'm going to just go ahead and make a video about the book. And it can be an old book, it can be a new book, it can be a current book, whatever it is. But the criteria that I created, or not really created, but that I decided upon, is that because I'm using Goodreads way more than I have been in the past, my criteria is that if a book has over 100,000 ratings on it, then I will go ahead and consider that a bestseller. And so the first in that series that I'm going to do is going to be a book that I'm sure so many of us have already read because it's assigned reading in high schools across the country. At least it was for me. So the book that we're going to start with is going to be Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And if you haven't read it, the very, very, very basic premise of the book is that all like pain, all unhappiness, and just about anything you can think of negative that would have like a negative effect on a person has been eliminated through conditioning, and essentially conditioning it from like the embryonic stage all the way up into like adulthood. I watched the show on Peacock and I pretty much had no idea about the book because even though, yes, as I mentioned, it's assigned reading, it was assigned reading for me in high school, but honestly, I don't think I read any of my assigned reading in high school because I swear, when I think of some of the books, like any of the Shakespeare stuff, like the Odyssey, the Iliad, like all those things, I can't remember any of them. So the very first, what kind of really popped out at me at the very beginning is like, first it's a really short book, like really short, like it's like 250 pages or something is my copy. But the book gets off to a really, really slow start, as in like the first quarter of it, it's basically like a history lesson of how we got to the point where we are in the book. And the book basically, it just comes across as like they're lecturing you, I guess is the way that how I was reading it. And it's just kind of stupid and it's kind of boring. And it's literally like, as I was reading, I was like, can we just go? Can we just go? Can we just go? Eventually, it just goes. After the slow start, it actually started proceeding pretty rapidly. So you learn about some of the characters. None of them too much because again, it's like 250 page book. The takeaway that is, I was like, whoa, reading was that it's really, really sexual. As in like, one of their like core sayings that everybody always is saying is, everybody belongs to everybody else. And it's really encouraged to have a lot of like sexual partners. And that starts at a really, really young age, as in like 5 or something. It might even be younger. I'm not sure what the exact age is, but I know there's a lot of instances where there's literally kids running around having sex. As the adults, I understand it because there's no exclusive relationships as like we would think of them today. And there's no marriage, none of that, because all of the society is pretty much eliminated like individuality. And so I understand it a little bit more on the adults, but it's just kind of gave me a little bit like a kind of thought when I started reading that. I was really realizing where it was going. And the other thing and this is a really, really low like part of the book, but during the course of the book, Lenina and Bernard, who are 2 of our main characters, they go on holiday to New Mexico to a reservation to see the Savages. And the Savages are essentially the group that operates as the other in the course of this book, meaning they're the ones who are outside of so-called civilized society. And they're the ones who are, they're still, raising their own kids. They are still in these relationships that are frowned upon in the civilized society that we're in. But the thing is that, so they go to the reservation in New Mexico is where it is. And I've never understood this, and this is not the only one where this would happen, but the Savages, they're called Indians. And Indians, if you're Indian, you're from India. The Savages, as they're calling them, are in what was formerly America. And so Native Americans are Native Americans, Indians are Indians. I've never understood why that is so hard for so many people to comprehend and understand. I would say the largest takeaway for me reading the book is that the last probably 30, 35 pages, maybe not the very, very end, but pretty close to it, is there's John the Savage, who actually goes from the reservation back to London with Bernard and Lenina, because he's taken back because his father is actually somebody from the civilized society, somebody really high up, and they make a big hullabaloo about it, and it's just a big thing. But he's basically somebody who's not civilized, but he gets introduced into their society along with his mother as well. But anyway, so at the very end, he has a conversation with one of the controllers of Western Europe, and there's only a couple of controllers left, or in the world actually. And he has a really long and really thoughtful conversation, because in this society, again, there's no individual thought, there's no individuality, there's no there's no books. Like it's so different from what you would think. And so he has this conversation with the controller, and like it's literally, I thought this was the highlight of the book, because for probably 30 or 35 pages, it's just them two going back and forth about how come they feel this way about religion, or how come they feel this way about science, how come they feel this way about individual thought, all these things, marriage, all these things. And literally, like, the controller has an answer for everything. And it's interesting because at the beginning, like I said, it comes across as they're lecturing you and they're trying to just show you how you got to this point in society. But at the end, it seems like you literally have somebody who is in it at the time, in the moment, and they're telling you, this is why we do things. But it doesn't come across as like preaching to you, doesn't come across as a lecture, doesn't come across as a history lesson. It literally just comes across as, this is the way things are, and that's it. And I thought it was a really cool conversation. There's a little bit more that, of course, happens during the course of the book, much more than I'm going to talk about right now. But overall, like, it was okay. Like, it wasn't, like, I didn't come across from this of my Fahrenheit 451, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put a link to the video. But I didn't come across a bit like that. Also, I didn't come across, when I finished, I didn't think of this as the same as like 1984, Fahrenheit 451, or some of those other ones that are in similar genres. But I also wasn't like, oh man, this was amazing. Like, where do I give the sequel, even though there's no sequel, I don't think. So overall, I rated it as 3 stars. This was my 29th book of the year out of my goal of 50, and I'm trying really hard to get to 50, but it's going to be close. And so I'm sure that you have read it. And so tell me, what are your thoughts? And I will see you next time.